discussing the issues and celebrating the successes of the African American community. This is Another View.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. 'Tis the season to look back, reflect on our blessings and accomplishments, and give thanks to those who helped us along the way. As the Another View staff thought about a show reflective of the holidays, the word grateful kept coming up. So we decided to talk to people in our community who are grateful for help they received when life got tough, and also to those who were able to help. Tonight, meet Annie Marshall, LaRonda McLean, Abraham Modemeyer, and Thaler McCormick from ForKids. Welcome to the program, everyone. How you doing?
Thank you.
Good. Annie, let's start with you since this is your story. And I understand that you were working, you found yourself homeless. What precipitated that? What happened?
The person that I was renting from had got a mortgage on the house that he was renting to me. Mm-hmm. And I got off from work one morning, and the police knocked on my door and told me that I had 3 seconds to get everything I own and get out.
So you had no idea he stopped paying the mortgage?
Right. I had no idea he even had a mortgage on the house. I was just renting from him, you know. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I had to get my things and get out.
Now, this was you, your son?
Yes.
And was your daughter with you then or not?
No, my daughter was in the military.
She was in the military.
Yes.
So what did you do?
My son had friends live next door, a neighbor next door. I let my son stay with her, and I proceeded to, like, I didn't have a place to stay. I was just out. I walk around at night, just be where people hung out at to keep from being by myself until I could find me a place. And I think that went on for something like 4 or 5 weeks.
And how did you wind up coming to ForKids?
My neighbor next door, he got me in touch with the heart program, and the heart program introduced me to ForKids within a day. Within a day, I got in touch with him, and it was ongoing. You know, good things started happening from then on.
Did you know that there was help out there for you that day that you
No.
got kicked out? Did you think that there was nothing you could do?
No, I didn't think that there was help out there. I can't believe how much help there is out there for people. All you have to do is ask questions, and there's help. Mm-hmm. If you need it, there's help. Mm-hmm. ForKids is a wonderful program. I can't begin to tell you how much they can do for you. Well, it's nothing that I've ever asked them for where they couldn't help me. Mm-hmm.
Now, LaRonda, you're Anne's caseworker. Tell us a little bit about the situation when she arrived to you, and how do you start to assess what needs to happen and to figure out what you need to do to help people?
Yes, when Annie first entered our program, she applied for our permanent supportive housing program because Annie does have a disability, physical health and mental health. So when she first entered the program, she was connected with another caseworker where they assessed her needs. And at that moment, we realized that she was having problems, some physical problems with her knees. Mm-hmm. So the first thing was to get her an appointment, to get her seen, and have the physician assess her needs. At that moment, they informed her that she needed to have surgery on her knees.
So on top of not having a home, now you find out you've got an illness too.
Yes.
Were you feeling, tell me how you were feeling during that time.
Worse, Liz, I felt like I was through. I felt like that there wasn't no help out there for me. I felt like I was going to lose my son. It was awful for me. But I had my knee surgery done in August. But before they did my knee surgery, I had to put it off because my daughter, excuse me, my daughter passed. My daughter was in the Navy 19 years. She was in Italy, and she had a heart attack. So I had to put my knee surgery on, and that was.
And ForKids was even able to help you with that, weren't they?
Yes, they was great. Only thing I had to do was put my clothes in a suitcase. And
they took care of the rest.
They took care of the rest. I mean, I didn't have to do anything. They just put my clothes in a suitcase, and I was on my way.
So Thaler, you take care of the whole person. Is it not just the housing, but it sounds like the organization is concerned about the person as a whole and whatever they need.
The mission of ForKids is really breaking the cycle of homelessness and poverty, and Annie's story is really all too common with families that have lived in long-term poverty. So Annie coming to us because of a landlord who lost their mortgage. That's happening more and more today. But also, you know, Annie and Brandon, her son, had lived in poverty for a long time. So, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that her son faced. But they had all the issues and the medical issues. Annie's problems with her knees had been ongoing problems. So medical issues too often drive families into homelessness because they lose the income that they have. They don't have insurance. So many of the issues that Annie faced are things that families all across the country face and can cause them to slip into homelessness. So what our job is really is to help families exit homelessness and then to work with the children. Not only do we have case managers for the adults, but we have case managers for the children, because the children that have lived in long-term poverty are facing a lot of educational issues, and we'll talk a little bit about, you know, what her son has dealt with.
Tell me about Brandon, because he's a teenager, right?
Yes.
And he went through some changes behind everything that was happening to the two of you, didn't he?
It was hard for him. It was hard for him. Losing our home. He's coming home from school, and I had to tell him that we no longer stayed there anymore, and I didn't have a clue.
How old was he then?
Brandon was 13. I believe he was about 13, yeah. Losing the home, and I didn't have a clue that that was going to happen. You know, normally if you have time to talk to your child about something, it would be better on him, but
it just happened, and you had to lay it all on him too.
And he couldn't understand it. It changed his behavior. I mean, you know, he felt like I was letting him down. And then with having to stay with the neighbors, and me and him had been together all our life, I mean, ever since the day he was born, and I had never been away from him at night. That took a toll on him, because I couldn't be with him at night, because the people he was staying with, I couldn't stay with them, you know, which they were just doing me a favor or helping with him until I found something else. And then with his sister passing, he's waiting for her to come home, and she's supposed to be on her way home, and she never did make it home. And so
he felt like he was being abandoned across the board.
Well, he ever said everybody he loved left him, leaves him. And
so how did that manifest itself? What kind of trouble was he getting into?
Brandon really didn't get into trouble. He knew how to go to school, and he wouldn't stay in school. He never got in trouble with the law, but he just wouldn't stay in school. I think one time he was upset, and he was out walking, and they brought him home because he was out after curfew. But just for us being...
He was just kind of giving up, you think?
Yeah, well, he lost all interest in school. I stayed at school more than he stayed at school, trying to keep him in there. Miss Loranda got him in this program, Norfolk Merchant Marine. He found a way to wiggle himself out of there. He a very smart kid, but if he don't want to do it, he's not going to do it.
Figure out a way to get out of it.
Yeah, without being involved with the law.
But Abraham, you were able to pull him around, I understand. That you've been very instrumental in helping Brandon to be able to get back on track. So what were you able to do? And
Brandon is a special young man. He has a lot of potential. He just needs somebody to help him focus that potential. And I'm very blessed to know that I helped with that. He was at a point where hope wasn't in his vocabulary. Like Annie said, he did feel like everybody that loved him was in a situation where they couldn't help him. and with his sister passing, with Annie going through her struggles, the drive just wasn't there. He wasn't motivated. I think when I stepped into the picture with the GED program, he started to see a little bit glimmer of light at the end. ForKids is known for giving a hand up, not a hand out. And so it was tough at the beginning because with all that raw energy that Brandon has, it took a little effort to focus it, but he finally buckled down. I think once he saw results from the program, he saw his improving test results, he started to realize he could do it, and he was strong enough to do it on his own with help.
And we wanted to have Brandon to join us, but he was a little shy about being with us. But Annie, I understand that you and Brandon are doing something together now, aren't you?
Yeah, I go to school also. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. I feel like I don't know enough, and there's always something new to learn. I only go, well, I was going twice a week, but now I just go one night out of a week because I'm looking for a job also, because it's also coming up a date for me to own my own home or rent, and I'm looking forward to doing one of those.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So tell me, how does that process work, LaRonda? Where is she in this?
Well, we just recently referred her to Department of Rehabilitative Services. Since she had her 2 knee surgeries, we applied for Social Security disability assistance for her. So she now has income to do that. And being that her employment in the past have been housekeeping and standing on her feet for long periods of time, we had to find some other sort of different employment for her. So we referred her to the Department of Rehabilitative Services, where they connect and work with families that are receiving disability income and also figure out another trade for them. So that way she can have the opportunity to continue to work and find a different type of job that she's able to do based on, you know, the knee
Because Annie,
problems
you
that
worked
she's
the
having.
whole time.
Yes.
You were always working, so that was never the issue in terms of what drove you or helped you find yourself in a homeless situation.
No,
Because I think that's a stereotype, don't you think, sometimes that people have, is that people who become homeless just don't want to work and they don't want to do what they're supposed to do.
That's likely, but that wasn't in my case. My health got in my way, and then with the knee surgery, like I've had knee surgery twice on my left knee and once on my right knee, and like I say, I was up for having surgery when my daughter died, but I had to put that off and go to her funeral, and I had it done after it was all over with. But I thank God that I had ForKids there for me. They was there at the hospital for me when I had my surgery. They was there for me when I came home. I didn't have to worry about anything, food, getting my medicine, or nothing.
They were there to help you the whole time.
ForKids were there to help me.
Baylor, you were telling me today that there was a new study that recently came out about homelessness, and that the numbers, unfortunately, are up.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's going to be a surprise to anybody that homelessness is on the rise nationwide. The sad thing is that here in Norfolk, that we had been doing some really terrific work about driving down family homelessness. The 10-year plan to end homelessness was actually working. We were seeing our family homelessness numbers in the city of Norfolk on a decline because we'd really started to develop a wraparound system here to start moving those numbers down. And family homelessness in Norfolk is actually up 7% over the last 12 months.
And we think this is because of the economy and people losing their jobs?
Absolutely. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. Certainly at ForKids, we're now working regionally with teams in Chesapeake and Suffolk and Western Tidewater. In October alone, we served about 521 individuals, and yet we have turned away. I mean, so those numbers for ForKids are just huge numbers, but we are turning away hundreds, far more than we have ever turned away before. And it's a tough moment for ForKids because, you know, we really are an organization, and what we're about is really a solution. doing things like this. I mean, if we're going to break the cycle of poverty, it really has to be about GEDs and again, getting rehabilitative services for people like Annie, helping her find alternative employment. All of the data for kids like Brandon show if you're going to break the cycle of poverty, you have to keep kids in high school. So if we can't keep Brandon in high school, we have to get somebody like Abraham in and connect this beautiful work that Abraham's doing, then we have to get Brandon a GED. And what we see is if we can make that connection, then Brandon is smart and he can get a GED and he can have a future. So that's the work we have to do. And unfortunately, in about the last year, what we're seeing ourselves is really being pushed into that just food, shelter,
the very basics. You don't get a chance to even move.
Yeah, we're having to move away from
way.
this really great work, which we're so proud of, and just into keeping people safe, warm, and fed. So we really do need the community to just help be a part of the solution because there's an awful lot of people out there that need help right now.
Abraham, is that why you volunteered? Why are you at ForKids?
When I first got to Norfolk, I got stationed here in Norfolk last year with the Mid-Atlantic District Veterinary Command. We handled the food safety and defense for the Hampton Roads area. I found myself with some extra time in the afternoons that I didn't really know what to do with, and so I thought volunteering would be such a great thing to do. And I got the typical answer, oh, well, work at a VA hospital or work at a soup kitchen. I just didn't see my time being spent there producing some real results. I stumbled upon ForKids just on the internet, and I liked that I saw that they were really giving the clients the tools necessary to progress on their own. They weren't just, here's a place to stay, here's some food. They were really getting involved in finding out what was the root of homelessness in that particular client situation. It wasn't a generalized, this is our 12-step program and everyone's going to do it and this is going to be the result. It was tailored to the client to help their specific needs. And what's so great is that with helping Annie is I not only have an influence on her son's life, but I also get to work with her. So I get two for the money there.
And I see the smile on both of your faces. What do you think about Abraham and what he's doing?
Oh, it's, I just feel like God is good. He came into my life because I really, really did need someone to help me with my son, because I have wanted to give up so many times on my son. We have went through so many programs with my son and nothing worked. And I'm like, what is it that I can do? And then like one day I heard this name, Abraham, and my son came home and said, he owed me a cookie.
That was your incentive, huh?
I happen to come to ForKids anytime that I get in one day. I just happen to have an exhausting day at the gym, and I happened to be munching on a cookie. It was a little reward, and Brandon was taking a quiz, and he was like, "I'll finish the quiz if you give me that cookie." And so it's been a running joke ever since.
Loranda, what would you say to people who find themselves in situations like this? How do they take that first step to get help?
Well, for families that are living in the city of Norfolk, the first step they need to do is call social services, the HEART team. And what the HEART team would do is refer families out to our Norfolk-based shelters. And ForKids is one, along with the Y and the Dwelling Place. And at that moment, once they enter our emergency shelter, they're immediately connected with the case manager. So the case manager sits down, assesses the needs, and help them take those steps, those small steps to become self-sufficient. One, just basically finding child care for the child, or working with the children's services case manager to get the child appropriately enrolled into school, and then sitting down and discussing an employment plan. Because in order for them to be self-sufficient and to maintain a household, they need to find employment.
Taylor, we got less than a minute. What can people do to help ForKids?
Well, log on to our website, www.homesforkids.org. There's loads of way to help. Okay. We need funds. We need stuff. We've got about 250 family caseload at any day, And what you need to run your house, we need to help families run all of their houses. We are doing toy drives. But, you know, right now, the reality is we've got about a $500,000 funding gap right at this moment. So it costs about $55 to sponsor a child for one night in a shelter, and our shelters are the big thing that are unfunded at this moment in time.
Okay.
And for families around the region, call your departments of social services for assistance, because they'll funnel you into the programs throughout the region as well.
Well, we hope that people will respond. We thank you all so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your sharing your story, Annie, and Merry Christmas to you. We appreciate that, and to all of you. And our thanks to LaRonda McClain, Annie Marshall, Dale McCormick, and Abraham Montemeyer for sharing their inspirational stories. For more information about 4Kids, visit www.homesforkids.org. Up next, the story of real pirates in downtown Norfolk. But first, some events happening in Hampton Roads this holiday season. When we think about pirates, thoughts of eye patches, swords, and terror on the high seas often come to mind. Or maybe we think of Blackbeard or the fictitious Captain Jack Sparrow. But what may not come to mind is an image of a slave ship. Until now. Our Lisa Godley takes us to the Real Pirates exhibit at Nauticus, where the story of the Widow gives a lesson in Black history you won't soon forget.
Like many of the galley ships of her day, the Widow was designed and used to transport captured Africans from their homeland to a life of servitude in America. As horrific as we now know those voyages were for the men, women, and children chained below, it was legal and big business. The Widow would have likely continued operating as a slave ship probably for years had it not been for Sam Bellamy, an English sailor turned pirate. Once he laid eyes on the Widow, Bellamy wanted it for himself. After a 3-day pursuit, he caught the vessel and claimed it as his flagship. Some of the Widow's crew joined Bellamy and became members of his band of pirates. 30 to 50 members of the crew were black. Many former slaves who'd escaped from bondage when Bellamy's crew took over the ships they were being held on. They robbed over 50 ships before a nor'easter toppled the vessel off the coast of Cape Cod, Massachusetts in 1717. The Widow would rest on the ocean floor for close to 300 years before underwater explorer Barry Clifford would discover its remains.
Through stories that I had heard as a boy growing up on Cape Cod about this legendary pirate ship that wrecked off of the shores of Wellfleet, where beachcombers would walk along the beach and find coins and washing up from the ship, and all tied into this legend of this notorious pirate coming back to Cape Cod to rendezvous with his girlfriend, who had been condemned and in fact convicted as a witch. Now when you go through the story, this all sounds sort of far out there, you know, witches and all, but when you realize that Cotton Mather from Salem witchcraft trials represented 2 of the pirates and actually got them acquitted, and it was with those documents that Cotton Mather wrote, along with other documents that I found at the Mass Archives, that I realized that it was something more than just bedtime stories.
After learning of the Widow's involvement in the slave trade, Clifford vowed to never sell her treasures for profit, instead displaying the remains of the pirate ship at museums for the world to see.
After we began doing research on what we had found, that the ship was owned by the Royal African Company and that it was licensed to buy and sell people, that the whole equation changed for me. At that time I realized that, we could never sell this. I'm not going to sell coins that paid for people.
After After more than 2 decades, Clifford has uncovered more than 200,000 artifacts, including $25 million in silver and gold. This makes the WHRO exhibit the only place in the world where you can see real pirates' treasure. He recently brought the discovery to Nauticus.
We have to keep all of this together as a collection for people to try to understand more about this period.
Destiny Thompson, a 6th grader at Norfolk's Riverside Middle School, was very impressed with what she saw.
I like how Samuel Bellamy let the slaves be free and that it turned into a pirate ship. And then the coins are really cool, how they're shaped and the special signs up there. And I think it's a really cool experience.
You can experience the first fully authenticated pirate ship and its treasures, and the amazing history that goes with it at Nauticus until the spring of 2010. For Another View, I'm Lisa Godley.
And as Lisa said, the Real Pirates exhibit is at Nauticus until April 4th, 2010. And for the next 3 weeks, you can tour another slave ship, the Amistad, free of charge between 1 and 3 p.m. daily. She's berthed behind Nauticus. And that's our show for this evening. In case you haven't heard, Another View is moving to a new night in January. Starting January 8th, we will join you on Friday nights at our same time, 9 p.m., right after What Matters with Kathy Lewis. We hope that you are enjoying your holiday season and that you remember to be grateful for all the positive things in your life. We'll see you next week for Another View.